Members of the company, this is your places call. Places, please. Places for the top of the podcast. Places, please.
Get ready for a behind-the-scenes look at the glitz and not-so-glam of Broadway, education, and everyday life with Uncommon Sense. Join hosts Christopher Smith and Charna Lopez as they bring you the best stories and shenanigans that seemingly prove how elusive common sense can really be. So take a little time for yourself to hang out with the dynamic duo Charnopher. And no leaving early, because you might just miss that 11 o'clock number.
Stand by music. Music, go.
Uncommon sense, the 11 o'clock number. And we are Charnopher.
Hey everybody, good morning, good
Hi
afternoon.
everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good day, top of
and
the
good
morning.
night. What is that from? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. What is that?
Is it from a movie? A show?
Yes, it's a movie.
I don't know. It'll come
Oh,
to
I think it's...
don't
What?
cheat and look it up. I was going to
I
say
won't.
don't cheat and look it up.
I won't look
Okay.
it up. I won't cheat. I won't
What
do
do you
it.
think it's
But
from?
I think it's from Bruce Almighty. No,
Evan
no,
Almighty.
no. What's another one? What was the one where Jim Carrey was like in a dreamland? Was it Jim Carrey? The Truman Show. It wasn't Dreamland. It was a TV show. The Truman Show.
And you know what is so this is why I just love that we don't even really plan things like this. When we start talking shows in a couple episodes where we're kind of planning, we're in the planning mode. I want to talk about Pippin and how I based my most current production of Pippin off of the Truman Show.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. Yes.
I didn't
I
know
know.
that. I'm so
Yeah.
excited.
Okay, that's for later. But like that's how
I know.
that's the world. That's the world we live in. I love it.
I love that.
Okay, hi
Okay, Truman
everyone.
Show.
Welcome to Uncommon Sense.
Which right now is it's common nonsense right now.
Yes. Thanks for joining
I love
us.
it.
Thanks for joining us. Christopher and I, we've been on spring break, so we are so excited to be back and chatting and discussing all the things of life.
Yeah, Charna, where were you?
Oh my gosh,
Where
where
did you go?
wasn't I? My gosh.
That's
so
right.
seriously, I went crazy this spring break. I took my kids without my husband, not on purpose. He had to work. To Florida.
Bye, J-Lo. See ya. Somebody's
I
in the
took them to
doghouse.
Florida to see my sister, who we had on our podcast a few weeks ago, the Kelly Feldhouse, as she's doing Kinky Boots out there. So we went to go see her in the show, which was magical, and I will have to talk about that another time. Just that
Yes,
experience
I want
with
to.
my kids seeing her on stage, and we went to Disney World, which
Was that
was
a first time for you?
Yes. And actually really enjoyed Disney World. I really did. I wish it was not across the country. I don't know, honestly, if I would like fly there again and make it like a big family thing. I love Disney, but I'm not like a Disney fanatic, you know?
Yeah.
And I think if it was driving distance or kind of around the corner, 1,000,000%. I don't know. I think I'd rather go to Cabo or Cancun or Hawaii, spend my money that way. But my kids, we had a blast. And then I literally came home, my flight landed, and I ran a Ragnar. So for those of you who don't, my cup. Ragnar.
That's right. Ragnar Cup.
In a nutshell, Ragnar is an insane 200-mile-ish relay race. They do them all over the country. This one's called SoCal Ragnar. So we ran from San Diego to Huntington Beach we did it in about 30 hours. And we have two different vans, 12 people, and you run different legs, different stretches of the race in all different areas, all time of the day. So I ran at 5:30 in the morning. I ran at like 4 in the afternoon, and then I ran at 1 in the morning. And I did I did 13 and a half miles. I literally like dropped my kids off with my husband in the parking lot of the airport and jumped in my Ragnar van. So I have been doing a lot, but it
Mm-mm.
was very nice. How about you? What did you do over your spring break?
Um, we had some good times. We did not go anywhere. We did nothing crazy like certain people named Charna. But we had family come in from out of town, which the kids got to meet their cousin really for the first time because I we when they were out a couple years ago, Grayson was just too young to remember. And
Yeah.
so and Amelia had never met their cousin. So that was
How
really
old is their
fun.
cousin?
She's 10.
Oh, fun. That's a good
Yeah.
age to be able
Yeah.
to like interact and oh,
And
that's
they
cute.
had such a blast. They were like, they spent probably 90% of their time together. My in laws have like those older, how do I describe it? It's like a chair. It's not like a chair, it's a chair. It's like those swivel chairs
uh,
that can go around and
okay.
spin. And they would sit in that and we would spin them like the teacups for
Yeah.
Grayson does not get dizzy. Grayson does not get dizzy at all. He just like
Dang.
he could go for an hour and be fine. And I'm like, what's wrong with you? And
That's
then
crazy.
right. And Amelia, on the other hand, goes for like 2 seconds and she is like a toddler drunk. It like she gets off. She gets off. She full on falls over. It's the
Oh my
funniest thing.
gosh. Isn't it funny how kids have different? I mean, we went at Disney World on a couple rides, obviously that we had never been on, and roller coaster wise, both of my kids like roller coasters. They do, but it's interesting how they affect kids differently, right? So like drops for some kids, or spinny for some kids, or like
Mm-hmm.
curves and upside down for some people, kids. Like it affects everyone differently.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I get dizzy. I love
Yeah.
drops and I love the fast, but like teacups, not my jam.
Yeah. I do it
Not
all.
my
I
jam.
love all the things.
Oh,
Grayson and I are
I
going to be the best theme park buddies ever.
how okay, but I was like that when I was younger, and now as an older
Oh.
person, I remember going on the teacups several years ago. Have you been on them recently?
Okay, I don't know why
Because
you're trying to ruin my fun, Charna Lopez, but I have not been on in the last few years, so I guess things might have shifted.
I want you to try it and then come back and tell us and
I'll
let us
just
know
do
really how
an
you feel.
I'll do I'll do a Charna for Instagram live if I ever go on something like that, like the
Like,
teacups. I'll just
I
do
thought
like
this was fun.
yeah. Why ever
Oh
did I
man,
think
but
this
my
was fun?
we I mean I love roller coasters like that. We went on some amazing. They have a really cool Avatar ride at
Mm,
Animal Kingdom, which was so cool, and then the Everest roller coaster is really cool. We had a really fun time. I'm glad you had a. You know what? Sometimes doing spring break, like and not doing anything, or having Christmas break and not doing anything.
yeah.
Or I love when we have like 4-day weekends. People are like, where are you going? I'm
Hmm.
like, nowhere. Sometimes
Doing
that's
nothing.
nice because
Yes,
you need that, which transfers so this is like such a great transition into what we wanted to talk about today.
that's right.
We're calling it the work life unbalance
Yes.
situation that is an epidemic in our world today. And I think coming off the heels of this break for both of us, and
Hmm.
if you've been following us or listening to us from the beginning, we both work a lot. And I think in different ways, definitely. But I watch Christopher, and I know he watches me, and we kind of have some of our things that cross over, and we know how crazy our life gets with our work, and also how much we try our best to have that balance. But
Hmm.
I came home from this trip and was just like, this is ridiculous. Like, I couldn't even go away for a week without like
400
feeling
emails.
somewhat. Yes. I mean, I literally am going to go into work today and I have over 400 emails, and some of them, whatever, it's not a big deal. But I think it's this idea of like, we're made to feel like we cannot disconnect. We can no longer,
Yeah.
that term unplug, right?
Hmm.
Like in the 80s or the 90s, it like unplug.
Yeah.
There's just no there's no getting away from it unless you go to a literal place, a deserted island with no Wi-Fi or no service of any kind.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible now to
Well,
like,
Sharna, I'm going to teach you, not that I do it good, but like just turn off your notifications, just turn off your
yeah,
badges on your like
yeah.
your email program. Just don't just don't look. don't
Right.
get the
And
things
you
that
know
tell
what's
you that you
funny?
have
I was
things.
really good with email. Clearly why I have 400 in my inbox.
Right.
But it's the texting. Because,
Oh,
like texting,
yeah.
you're communicating with the people you're with. So you're also communicating like with my husband at home,
Yeah.
sending him pictures, and then other people's texts come in and it's like, okay, yeah, I want to help this person or this person needs this answer. And honestly, I did a pretty good job with it this last
Good.
week. I was very proud of myself. I did not respond to a single email, but I just feel like there's this sense of you can't you can't get away. You
Yeah.
can't. You used to leave your work at work,
Hmm.
and you just can't do that anymore in most, even if you technically leave your work at work, there's
Right.
still this like connection, right?
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
know.
and also like it's just so there's this weird unspoken expectation. Like even if you come back and say, uh, I feel like it would be one of those things like, I know you were on vacation, but there's always like a but,
Yeah.
whether it's said or
Yeah.
implied.
Yeah.
And
And the
I
other
mean,
thing I
I've
think
done
it
it to
too,
people too, but I mean,
yeah,
I bugged you. I
we're
bugged you
all
on like
we're all
Friday
guilty of it. We're all
or
guilty of it.
Saturday.
And I think it's one of those things too where I find sometimes like I want I left knowing I had people to do things, and sometimes I want them to step into that even more. Like, hey,
Hmm.
you don't need me. You can do this, and they're very capable, but I feel like it's this sense of like still need, like I'm the mama bear, Like, oh, I got to make sure. I don't know, it's a strange, and I just had this realization of like I think it's across the board. I can't imagine
Yeah.
being somebody who maybe is in a career that's, very like a lawyer or something like that, where I guess it's even more you
Hmm.
can't disconnect, right? And it
Well,
makes me
real
kind of
estate comes to
sad.
mind for
Yeah,
sure.
right?
Like, and
And
they
I just
even
am
say
like,
they're on they have to be on their phones 24/7
I
because
know.
things got to
My
get done
girlfriends
and
and
you
I were
can't miss the
talking the
deal.
other day, like we all get kind of in this zone sometimes where we're like, "Oh my gosh, I wish we just could like work at TJ Maxx." Like like or Trader
I
Joe's.
mean,
Like I
honestly,
just wish I could like walk in, stock shelves and walk away and not have to worry about 750 things because we all have different jobs in different industries or whatever. But at the same time, I I think it's anywhere, because then
yeah.
if you run your own business, because I was like, oh, if you run your
Oh,
own business, you like make your own schedule. No way. It's almost
that's
worse
harder.
because then, yeah, yeah, you're always on your phone. You're constantly having to check in with who's doing what. And I just think it was a good reminder for me to stand strong in my like, no, this is my vacation.
Yeah.
So I'm taking a vacation, you know? And I
Yeah.
did. I really did. I mean,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was
Good.
such a great time with my kids and my sister. But I think it is even with relationships. Like my husband and I talk about this a lot. I think we somewhat talked about this maybe in a previous episode, but it's like that, especially once you have kids. Um, your kids and the things you do with your kids become your like time together, right?
Hmm.
So we've spent so much time together at Sebastian's baseball games, and we've spent so much time 2 weeks ago at the theater with Ruby doing Matilda and doing all
Hmm.
of that. But that does not take the place of spending time together as a couple, right?
Yes.
So that I think when we had our two littles, because when we had the older girls only, they would spend half their time with their mom, so we would have some alone time. And then once
Automatically.
you get the
Yeah.
little kids, it's so important to have that like one-on-one time. And I'll never forget, like one of the first times we went out to like a nice dinner after we had Sebastian, and Jerry and I were like, what do we talk about? Like we're talking about like, when are we going to take Sebastian off the bottle, and
Yeah.
Alyssa's playing soccer and her soccer schedule and this and that. I'm like, hold on, like let's talk about like what are your goals this year, or like where do you want to go on our next vacation, you and me, or like those kind of conversations that goes
Hmm.
into work life balance too,
A hundred
because a
percent.
family is work. It's work.
We
It's
had,
awesome work.
yeah. And that's why stay-at-home moms have one of the hardest jobs in the world.
Amen to that. I've said it. I could never do it. I would be
Yeah.
in a corner with a bottle of wine being like, somebody help me. I think they're amazing.
Shout out to Joy, who's pretty much a stay-at-home mom.
Hmm.
Um, And no, I had the same experience. It was more after Amelia was born because we had already not gone out forever with Grayson because he didn't get babysat well. I don't know if that's a good sentence or not, but
It works.
yeah. And so by the time he was old enough, then we had Amelia. And so I was like, then we're back in full baby mode. So I just
Yep.
remember we went to Il Forneo in Irvine because
Yeah.
that's like Joy's favorite
I've never been
place
there.
for like a nice date night. And we were sitting there having this exact same discussion. Like we we just were talking about kids stuff and stuff like that, everything kid related. And then finally Joy was like, okay, wait, let's talk about like where we are, where you are, what struggles you're having. Like I told you,
Yeah.
she's like Miss Change and like Miss Grow. So like
Yeah.
she was on it.
I love that
But
though.
yeah, but I was also like, I don't know, because I'm
Yeah.
so like
Right?
focused on when I'm at home. Well, not always, which is also tricky working from home. Thank you, COVID. But
Yeah.
but it's tricky to get that work life balance for so many
I think
reasons.
too, like the fact having that moment, like you had it and I had it, where you're just like, I think your brain is so preoccupied, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. Obviously, it means
Yeah.
you care about your kids, you care about your job, you care about all of that. But I think it is so important to have that moment of like, hey, and I'm a huge believer of your family is only as strong as your marriage. So if you don't take time to put back into your marriage to grow that relationship, because it's what it's built upon, you know what I
That's
mean?
right.
And I remember when our kids were, they still do it now, but when they were younger, like when Sebastian was 5 or 6 and Ruby was 2-ish,
Hmm.
when we would go out to dinner
So
and they'd be
like
like,
my
why
age of
can't
children.
we go? Yes, yes. And I'm sure they do it too. Like, why don't we get to go? And why are you guys leaving us? And it's that guilty feeling. And I
Yeah.
remember being super clear with them, like, hey guys, it is so important for mommy and daddy to have time by themselves. It doesn't mean we don't love you. It's very important for us, just like we spend time with you, we need to spend time together. And I think instilling that early on, and there are times of the year, like right now, God bless baseball season. God bless it. Um, I I did an Instagram post the other day because I got like all sentimental. I
Hmm.
Watching my son play baseball is probably one of my most favorite things, and the fact that my husband coaches and it's this whole thing, it's literal magic. But on the flip side of it, for our family, it is super hard because
Yeah.
it's not like a musical where you're like, I have a rehearsal. Okay. It's like the never ending season of sport. It's crazy. And I know so many people have lived that. But I have to stop and think like, okay, it's a season. So maybe during this time, we don't get to have a date night or we don't spend a lot of time. We're like passing ships.
Hmm.
But it's a season that I know, especially when our kids are grown. I talk to a lot of older moms who are like, oh my gosh, it was the best. Like,
Yeah.
enjoy it. Like Dawn Sprenger, who she
Yeah.
constantly is like a good reminder of Charna. These are memories. You want to have this time. But,
Yeah.
but I still think it is important to schedule it. You know who
Yeah.
does that really well, Christopher? Scott
Who?
Barnhart and JP.
Oh, really?
So yeah, and
Oh,
they
yeah,
don't
yeah,
even have
yeah. Because they
kids,
have like
and
scheduled
yes,
surprise
they
dates.
kick booty at that because, and they did it. They've done it now. I think the last 2 years where they surprise each other. So it's every other
Hmm.
month, which to me seems like the most monumental feat of all time.
Right.
Every other month. I mean, with 2, sometimes 4 kids, I would be lucky if we did one every 3 months.
Yeah.
But even then, okay, we schedule out this. If we can schedule in basketball, baseball, football, dance, gymnastics,
Yes.
musicals, church, if we can have all of this other stuff that we do and we can find time for it, then we find a time, right? And so that's what Scott and JP do. Every other month, one of them plans like a secret
Hmm.
date. And it doesn't have to be anything crazy.
Right.
Like they've gone to the comedy club, they've just gone out to a bar with a musician, they've gone like to a nice restaurant. And I think, I don't know, there's just, it takes you back to like, not how you used to be, but like why you liked each other in the first place.
Right.
right?
Right.
You
But
didn't
the other
like each
tricky
other
thing,
because of your kids.
well, right, because you didn't have them yet, suckers.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, but I mean, we also a little bit that brings me to thinking about like later in life when
Hmm.
like you were saying, John said you'll look back on this as a you want to have enjoyed these moments, and that's 100% true. And later in life, I think what a like I know so many people that their kids grow up and leave home, and then they have no idea what their marriage is anymore.
Yeah, yeah,
And um that's always in the back of my mind because I'm the one that's super focused on the kids too. So I have to
yeah.
be reminded of that fact. And it's just so important because you don't want to get to that point where you are just living with a stranger now.
Yes. And I think I keep thinking back, especially as my kids start to get a bit older, of this example, right? So my parents got divorced when I was like a freshman. And even before
Okay.
that, we kind of had these separate. My dad was with my older sister a lot more because she was in
Okay.
sports, and me and my younger sister were kind of with my mom most of the time because we did our separate things, you know?
Yeah.
But I just want my kids to look at my marriage and be like, oh, yeah, like I see my mom and dad taking care of each other. I see my mom and dad
Hmm.
making time for each other, doing nice things for each other. I don't
Yeah.
want them to be like, mom and dad just take care of me. You know, I want them
Right.
to see the whole picture. And I think this last trip was really great too. Sebastian, I gave him the choice. I was like, you can come with that with Ruby and I. I would love to take you so you can see your auntie Kiwi's on stage and you can have a trip with
Hmm.
mama. But he had to miss 2 baseball games. And
Okay.
I gave him the choice. I didn't want to force him. And
Yeah.
we kind of had a good talk about it. And I just said, look, I know how important baseball is to you, but family's important. And you haven't seen your aunt in a couple years. And so he made the choice. And then when we were leaving, he got sad. He was like, oh, I'm going to miss dad. Like, why can't dad come with us?
Oh.
And I said, buddy, I totally get it. But it's also important for you to spend time with me and your sister and your aunt. And then, we're on the plane and he's like, yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
But I think it's that like, you have to have this realization again, him coming to Ruby's shows. Does anybody really want to sit through 3 performances of a youth production of Matilda? No, they
No.
don't. Does
And
any
if they're
7-year-old
telling you
girl
they
want to,
do, they're either insane or lying.
right? Or does any 7-year-old girl want to sit through 750 baseball games? No, they don't, but you do that because you support the other person. And I think kids seeing their parents do that, I think is important and
Yeah.
establishes a really great example for
Yeah.
them when they get older to have, oh, this is what a good marriage parent relationship looks like. Right.
Yeah. And I want to take that back just a little bit because I think um yes, that wouldn't I guess I should want to reframe it as that would not be your personal first choice to how to spend your time. But I think you do want to be there and you do want to choose those things for exactly what you said, Charna. Like you want to be
Yep.
there to support, you want to be there to spend time. Like, yes,
Yeah.
I do want to be there. That's just not if I was by myself, what I would
Right.
go do on a Friday night.
100%. And this year for me in particular, so Jerry started coaching for a high school team, which is new for us this year. And I've been able, they've had, I don't know, I think they have 20 games in their whole season. And I've been able to get to 4 of them, which I don't have a kid on the
Okay.
team. It's high schoolers. I don't have like, but I
Yeah.
want to be there to support him and I want to see what he's doing. And it's the same
Hmm.
thing with Jerry. Jerry
Oh
comes
yeah.
to all of these shows and sits through so many things. And I know it's exactly that. Like he's there to support. And that's what you do in a family, in a friendship, and whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But I think it's understanding that balance of family time, mom son time, mom daughter time, parent time, and finding ways to do that. I read 2 things on the airplane which like totally relate to this, which is funny. I was reading this article about Kelly Ripa and Mark.
I love
Shoot,
Kelly
I can't think
Ripa.
of. Me too. So her husband is now
Yeah.
co-hosting with her on the morning show.
Oh,
And
he
I read
is,
this.
huh?
Yeah. Yeah. So Ryan is
Okay, I want to
retiring
go back
from.
before you get. I want to sidetrack us because I'm
Yeah.
squirrel today. It's usually you, but
Okay. Squirrel.
I'll be the squirrel today. Because True Confessions used to watch a lot of soap operas. I
Yeah.
loved a daily soap opera, and I watched All My
Like
Children,
that makes
and
me laugh. What What did you like about soap operas? They're so ridiculous.
They are, and I think that's what I like about them. It's like I get so invested into their lives, and it's like every day there's a
I
dose.
feel like that's an old person thing. My
know.
mom loved her soap operas.
Yeah.
That was like, but you were Days of Our Lives. Which ones did you like?
No, it was Young and the Restless and All My Children,
Okay.
which is no longer on the air.
Oh my gosh,
which
so
was sad.
funny.
But I also grew up because my mom watched them, and so I kind of
Yeah.
like got into them. And so Kelly Ripa used to be on All My Children, and
That's where she met her husband.
correct. That's what I was
Yeah.
going to say. Is that's where she met her husband, and they got married. And I love that they're still married because I think they were together on the show. Like I think that's what their storylines were.
Yeah.
But I just love it, and I just love her.
Their
Anyway,
article
go
was
on.
so cool. But that's exactly what they talked about in the article was how, I mean, and now in entertainment, these relationships, you see people right and
Oh.
left not making it work. And just reading
all.
it now, they're being interviewed. So,
Right.
they're really real about, they've got 3 kids,
Mhm.
which the last one just left for college. And so they talk about
Okay.
this whole empty nest thing.
Yes, it's a
And
real thing.
Kelly Ripa said the first day that she was like depressed. Like she's just like, look, I love my husband. We do a lot together. We've had a really great marriage and relationship, but it's just such a shift
Yeah.
in your dynamic in your household. And she's like, and then after the first night, she was like, screw this. We're going down to the beach to watch the sunset with some wine. We're going to make the, and she's just like, and you just change into this, okay, it's a new part of our
Yeah.
journey. And now they're going to host the show together, which I thought was really cool. But in that same article, they asked them like, how do you make time for each other?
Mhm.
And I don't know which one it was, or maybe it was the interviewer that said, have you heard of the 2 rule? And I had never heard of this rule before. So
Me neither.
every 2
I'm
weeks,
excited.
I'm never going to be able to do it. I mean, I'm going to strive to make it happen. But every 2 weeks, you have like a date night, something, anything, a date. It could be a coffee date. It could be a lunch date. It could be whatever.
Mhm.
Every 2 weeks. That is incredibly hard for me. Every 2 months, you have a night away or a night without kids. And then every
Okay.
2 years, you take a trip together. I was like,
I don't know about
that's-
this.
I was like, maybe I could do 4 every 4
Okay.
weeks. So once a month, like a meet up with a coffee. Dinner,
What if we-
lunch, something.
What if we just do the rule of 3s? Because that's a theater thing. So we'll just do 3s.
Okay. I mean, even then,
But
I don't even
but
do that. I
also,
mean,
it can
that's
be super
hard.
simple. You can literally go in the backyard and
and
have
that's
a cup
what
of
I
coffee.
think, which is huge, right? Or like away, like a
Yeah.
night away. It doesn't mean you have
Well,
to go somewhere. Like you give
Yeah.
your kids to go spend the night at your friend's house or go to a babysitter, and you have your time to yourself.
Yeah.
I was like, that's impressive. People that do that.
I will
That's
say
impressive.
though, the youth, I think it's the youth pastor at our church here in Orange County. They have figured this out. They literally, I think he does it every week. Watch, I'm totally wrong. I'm gonna find out. If I'm wrong, I'll tell you. But I swear there's like one night they do like a fun sleepover with the kids. Like they'll do like a movie night and sleep over downstairs together. Like one night a week. And then
Yep.
one night a week is date night.
Yep.
Like,
Parents' night out. They call it at my kids' school. They do parents' night out. So
No,
the
I'm
kids
just
can all
talking
come
about-
to school.
oh yeah, that's great.
Right. Oh, you
that's
mean the
great.
pastor does it?
Yeah, in his life. Like in his
That's
own life.
awesome.
I know.
Once
And
a
I'm like,
week.
Once a week.
Dang.
I'm like, okay, well, I guess
impressive.
if you can do it, we can all do it. But also
And look,
you
I
no.
think too, it's the small things, right? So I was talking about this to somebody the other day. When my husband used to work in a different location, he would come and meet me sometimes at OSHA at school, and we'd have the taco truck for lunch. I loved
Oh,
it.
I love that.
I was
Yeah.
like, that's not some fancy dinner. It's not a weekend
No.
away, but it's just enough time together without kids to be like, oh, hey, how's your day going? You know what I mean? And I think it's to me, it's little things like that where, and as your kids get older, I will say this too, because you are right in that time where it's mama, mama, daddy, 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 mama, mama. Now, it doesn't get much easier. I still can count. Dude, in the morning or when I've been gone and I come home, I can't.
Mhm.
The amount of times I hear, mom, 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 in the first 15 minutes I'm back is like, what is happening? But my kids are to the point now where like they want their own time. Like last
Yeah.
night, Sebastian was up in his room, watching highlights or something. Ruby will be reading. Like they get to that place where they want a little bit more of their own time, and then they get to that place where they really want all their own time.
And then I'm
So
gonna be
I
sad.
feel like yes, and I think I'm super lucky because Sebastian's 11, almost 11 and a half, and he's
That is so
still.
crazy. Every time you tell me how old he is, I
I
just
know.
have like a
I
panic
know.
attack. Because I've known
And
him
because
since he was a
you've
wee
known him since he
one.
was tiny, and he just is starting to look like a
Mm-hmm.
grown up.
I
Like I
know.
looked at him the other day when we were on vacation, and I was like, "What?" And I'm gonna give a shout out when someday he listens to these podcasts. He is such a responsible little guy. Like taking him on this trip, I was like, dude, I will travel with you anywhere. He has his stuff in order. He knows where we're going. I'm not worried about him losing
At
something
all.
or walking off somewhere or doing anything. I mean, he's just, okay, mom, I got this. And he was helpful. He still drives me nuts in certain areas, but all kids do.
That's right.
He was really great. And I could see that like maturity, you know,
Yeah.
which is fun to
But
watch. But
also,
yeah, I
I've
think it's
told
these
you
stages.
5,000 times that he is you. So let's not be too surprised.
I mean, he really is. And you know what's funny? I saw it so much. Like him just packing his suitcase for our trip.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, my tiny clone has arrived.
Yeah, that is correct.
Whereas Ruby is my husband. It's like
Yes,
5 minutes before we're
100%.
going to leave. And she's just like, I don't know. I threw in a bunch of chonies. Cool. Let's go. I'm like,
That's going to
girlfriend.
be same thing with my kids. Like Grayson, like his personality, like we've discussed, is much more joy. And he's very analytical and very organized.
Yep.
And I already see that Amelia's personality is much more like mine. So yeah, we'll pack in 15 minutes. Now she's a girl, so that might be a little bit lengthened. But for the most part, it's going to be like, we're ready to go. And Joy
Yeah.
and Grayson will be like, it's 3 days away. Why aren't you packed?
Yes. Yes. With a list, right?
Yeah.
A checklist.
Oh,
And I've
100%.
taught Sebastian, he is so good at it now. He'll like give himself notes and he'll let it like,
Yep.
it's so funny. But I think that's what makes a good yin and yang, like
Yeah.
if you have two of those same people, it can be crazy. So it's kind of nice
Yeah.
to have
Yeah.
the yin and yang. But yeah,
But
I think kind of just circling back total, I think I just, especially this year, and maybe it's coming out of COVID too, like the time and how much physical time we were with our families.
yeah.
And then to kind of jump back in and navigate getting back into work and schedules and time with friends and family and all of this, it's a lot. And I think I'm often commended for it, which I think is funny because sometimes I feel like I'm cuckoo. But I will say, when I took my position at OSHA as director, it was one of the things I promised myself, because I had so many parents that were like, "Are you crazy? Why would you take this job when you have a little baby?" I mean, Ruby was little; she wasn't even
I know.
2; she's little. And they were like, "You're never going to see your family, this and that." I'm like, you know what? I think the opposite. I feel like
Yeah.
if I make a conscious effort to ensure that I'm having a work-life balance as best I can, and there are times that I suck at it, but I feel like for the most part, I like have said, no, I'm going to the baseball game. I'm not going
Yeah.
to add this rehearsal here because I need to get to my daughter's this. Or
Yeah.
we're going away for this weekend. I'm going to take this day off as a personal day and not feel guilty about it.
Yeah.
Try and navigate that as best I can.
No, I don't live with you, but I feel like from slightly the outside. I mean, I'm like on the inner circle, but I don't live with you. So, from circle 1 instead of like ground 0, from circle 1, I see that I would probably agree with that assessment. Just seeing how you pick and choose those moments as well. And for the most part, I feel like you are pretty good at leaving school at school. Like you'll respond to a text, but also
Yeah,
email me tomorrow.
I
If it doesn't
try.
have to get done right now, then don't do it right now.
Exactly. Do it tomorrow. I think too, I spent so many years, and I always say this like it's funny, but it's true. Do you have a question?
No,
Oh my
I was
gosh,
just like, I know what you're gonna say, and I'm like, I'm still
you're
living
so
it.
cute. You're like, me too. Like literally choreographing in my kitchen at 1 a.m.
Yep.
or going through things. And I did that for so long, and I see younger teachers doing it now. And, we would put the kids to bed and I would clean with my husband. We'd clean up the house, we'd get things ready, and it would be 10:30, and then I'd be like, oh, now I still have work to do.
Mhm.
And I remember being fine with that for a while, and then really, really being pissy about it. Like, why am I working? And I don't know why I'm coding it working. Why am I
Yeah.
working at 1 a.m. in my kitchen? Like, that's not good work-life balance. And I remember being like, this
Well,
is stupid.
then I get a big fat F because that's my life.
But also, okay, on the flip side, I'm going to be devil's advocate.
Thank you.
Sometimes
I
that's
need
the
some
only
encouragement.
time you have to do things. And I will say with my new assistant, she's similar. So we have an understanding where I'm like, hey, look, I get home and it's family time and I'm doing the Uber driving mom stuff and we're doing things
Mhm.
at home and I don't work at that time. And she does, because she's the opposite of where during the day she's doing kids. So sometimes you make it work and
Yeah.
you zhuzh it around. For me, it was like I was working all day and then coming home and like taking a family break and then continuing to work. And I was like, this is not how it works for me,
Yeah.
at least.
For the most part, we talked about, I try to keep my mornings open at this point, which is why I haven't taken
Yeah,
on like electives at school or something like that. Because I was like,
sure.
well, it would be good to get more money. It's always good, but
Right.
also at what cost?
Yeah.
And so yeah, so I have the mornings, which I try not to do any work for the most part, where it's just do crafts with the kids, or like sometimes I'll put a lesson every so often in the morning because that's the only time
Mm-hmm.
I can teach lessons. But
Right.
uh but for the most part I try to keep those open so that, and then I also get them because I a lot of times don't get home until after they're in bed or right when they're going to
Right.
bed or whatever. So
Yep.
if I didn't have that, I would never see my family. But then
Right. And that makes sense.
also I don't, I leave, let's say like 1 o'clock. I don't come home till 9 o'clock, and then I spend time like Joy and I'll watch a show or something, and it'll be like
Yeah.
10:30. I'm like, I
Yep.
gotta go work,
Yep.
and then I'll work till like 2 a.m.
Yeah. And I think it's also that's indicative of what we do. Like I used to be really bitter and jealous of my husband who could actually walk away
Yeah,
from his office and physically not be able to do the work he does. Like he can't
right.
call clients at 10 o'clock at night. He can't. So I used to be really irritated, like, what? What? But I think that's just indicative of what we do. So
Yeah,
you can't plan what you're going to teach, or you can't choreograph or stage or put together music or whatever it may be while you're teaching or while you're in rehearsal. So you
right.
have to do it. And so
Yeah,
you just have to choose the time, right? If you're not doing it in the morning because that's when you're working
yeah.
with your kids, then you're doing it at night. And I think it's like that for students too. A lot
Mm,
of our students who are like, I have
yeah,
to pick and choose when I'm going to do my homework or when I'm going to work on my material for whatever show or whatnot,
right.
because you can't do it during class and you want to spend time with your friends. It's the same kind of thing.
Yeah, which leads into time management, which I think is
Yeah.
so important for work-life balance, is sort of like,
Yeah.
I'm going to get to this little bullet point things and we'll see how we do. I was like, we'll take like a little quiz. We'll make our own quiz.
Yeah. I want to. Wait,
But
before we do the quiz though,
yeah,
similar with Jerry and I recently, especially like since after COVID, finding time to exercise. So that has been something for me. And remember how I was talking earlier in this episode, like, okay, I have to plan, I have to schedule this and I have to schedule this and I have to schedule this.
hmm
And like when it was COVID and you were just like here, we found so much time to work out and we actually love exercising. It's a big part of our family. Um, but that's something that drops down on the list when you start to like put other things at the top. And
hmm
it's so important for everyone's well-being. I'm not trying to be a supermodel or be super skinny. It's just in terms of mental health and like even just your physical, how you feel, and trying
hmm
to put that and schedule that. Like I tell Jerry all the time, like schedule it in, like put it in. This is my time for my
yeah,
my podcast recording. This is my
right,
time for I'm at work in the office. This is
right,
my time for this, and really try make get a priority.
right. Well, actually, I feel
All
a
right.
little bit better after talking about all these things before we do. I'm like, maybe we do some of these better. But when I first look at
Okay.
this
Are we
list, I
going to
was
take a
like, I
quiz?
get a big fat F. All right, so
I hope I at least pass with a C.
well, we'll see. We'll determine because it's not like a. Well, I was thinking we just maybe give ourselves a grade on each one of these and see kind of how we line up.
Okay. Okay. We have to be
So,
truthful.
yes. Well, point number one is set specific work hours. That was the one that I was like, I'm absolutely going to get an F on that. But at the same time, I sort of have done that. So I'm going to give
You
myself a
have. It's
C
just not a
minus.
traditional.
Right.
It's not. I think you have. Like you just said it. You don't work in the morning, but you work at night. Maybe it's not traditional work hours.
Right.
I think I get a B on that. I think I get a B. I think
All right.
I'm pretty.
I'll give
good
myself
with
a
like
B.
B.
Great.
Okay, what's the next one?
Make post-work plans. Absolutely not. I get a fat F.
What do you mean make post work plans? Like what are you going to do after work?
Yeah, well, like to maybe go, like if I said, Charna, let's go get a snack or get a cocktail.
Oh, we
after
suck
work.
at that.
We are the worst.
No.
We get big fat
Well, because
Fs.
there's no after work.
I
After
know.
work is like
That's
go
the
get your
problem.
children and pick up time. I mean, there's sometimes that.
I know.
No, I still get a D at least.
Yeah.
Maybe an
D
F.
minus. I'll give myself a D minus. Barely
D
passing.
minus.
Determine achievable goals. I think that actually I'm pretty good at that. Like but
what,
it's mainly the making it work. Because I'm like
what kind of goals? Like
well,
I want
like
to be able
I would
to
think
accomplish
like a daily goal. I
Okay.
would think that kind of on
Yeah.
the daily, like what do I need to do today? What do I absolutely need to get done today? And
Yeah.
then making it happen.
I feel like I'm good at that. I feel like
Yeah,
I'm good.
I agree.
We did a professional development thing a few years ago or several years ago maybe at Osho. I can't remember who came, but they did this thing, the quadrants. Have I talked to you about this before?
I don't know.
4 quadrants.
Did I go to I don't think so.
And when Scott Barnhart worked next door to me, I shared it with him, and then Lauren, I shared it with her. It's 4 quadrants, and you make a paper, and I do it oftentimes when I get overwhelmed. Mostly I do it in my brain, but when I get overwhelmed, I like sit and I write it. And
Yeah.
the first quadrant is what absolutely has to get finished today, what can get finished this week, what can you delegate to somebody else, and what can get finished this month or in the next couple of months. And I feel like when I can get things that way, I'm very good at accomplishing what has to get done today.
Good for you.
So it's like a goal, I guess.
Yeah,
I wish I
yeah,
had
yeah.
more like personal goals. I told you that when my daughter was like, "What's on your bucket list?" I told you that, right?
Yes.
And I was like, make dinner." Like what? I was like, I feel like I was like, "Oh my gosh." So I think like personal goals, I'm not great at that. Running a Ragnar, like I've done it now. I think this is my
a
4th
few
one.
years.
Something like that, achieving and like training for that. I think that's a good goal. I wish I had more personal goals that I achieved.
Well, I do remember you
And-
telling me that doing this podcast was on your personal goal, so you're
yes,
winning on
it
that
totally was.
one. Yeah, I know.
It totally was. And look at us now.
Here we
We
are.
are in how many countries?
5, I think, still, and we're still getting.
It totally
some-
was. And we had been talking about it for years, and now so look
Yeah.
at us. We should get an A.
We'll get an A for that. Okay, so next one is take proper breaks.
Oh, F minus.
Yeah,
I'm the worst. You know
There's-
who is good at taking breaks? Scott Barnhart. He takes
Yeah.
what he calls a lie down, and I think that I
I'm sorry.
need to
What?
take enough.
He's not told me about
Oh,
this.
He calls it a lie down. And he just goes and he just has a second, and maybe it's a couple minutes, maybe it's 20
Mhm.
minutes. I don't know. But you know what, Christopher? I am not a good break taker. Like, even
Me
if I
neither.
told myself I'm going to take a break, that's like
No.
me on vacation. I cannot sit still. I don't like downtime. Like, even yesterday, after I'd run 13 and a half miles with 4 hours of sleep, the boys are watching a baseball game. Ruby was like on her iPad, and I'm like sitting on the couch, like, I got to clean. I got to get up. I got to move. I got to do. I'm not, my brain is not made that way.
Well, if I'm at home, I'm better at it. But like if I'm in work mode, I'm really bad at it. Like I'm the person in
Yeah.
rehearsal that the stage manager has to say, "We're gonna need to take a 10-minute break." I'm like, "Oh yeah,
you're
people
like,
need breaks."
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Got it.
But you know what's funny? I think I get a bad grade on that, but I don't think I'm mad about it.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
yeah.
But
Okay.
maybe I could be better.
That's okay. This is
I do
just
try to
something I
breathe
found.
when my watch tells me to breathe. And that like kind of gives me a little mental break. But
Yeah.
sometimes I'm like, hurry up and breathe. I got to go to my next thing.
Yeah. All right. Create a designated workspace.
Yes, I'm good at that.
I am better at it now, and this is going to sound so funny because I decided tangent. I decided when I got a new computer, I was like, well, should I get another laptop? Should I get a desktop? Whatever. Long story short, I decided on getting a desktop, and that's actually
Ooh.
been really helpful because I have my iPad if I
'Cause you
really
can't
need
move
to do
it
something on
around.
the go. Yes. Because I used to sit with my laptop on the couch for hours, like while watching TV and like do work and stuff. And I'm like, no, I can't do that. I mean, I can sort of do it on my iPad, But I still, it feels more conscious then. It's like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
I have to do it. I want to spend time with Joy, so I got to get some stuff done. But for the most part, it's been better just having it in my office away.
That's really good. That was a big thing for me when I went from being a teacher to a director, having an office, right?
Mm-hmm.
So having an office, being in my office, working in my office. When I get home,
Mm-hmm.
if I'm doing any work at home on my laptop, so we don't have an office at our house, which
Mm-hmm.
if we had this podcast during COVID, y'all would have heard so many lovely stories about my poor husband and I. His
Yeah.
office was on top of the washing machine in the garage or under my son's bunk
You
bed.
can't say that when I'm trying to drink my coffee. I almost spit coffee all over the microphone.
And Jerry won from his work. He won some sort of contest of like most creative at-home office space because he was under Sebastian's bunk bed, like in a little kid. So we don't have an office here.
Yeah.
But Jerry works from home 2 days a week. So he's like set up on our dining room table.
Okay.
Which is annoying.
Yeah.
But we're working on getting him a desk area.
Oh, I love
so like
that.
if I'm gonna work, I'll sit there. I don't do a lot of work on the couch. I feel like I'm pretty good at that. A lot of it's on
Good
my
for
phone.
you.
Right?
Oh, that's
Which
true.
then kind of sucks. But I think
Yeah,
I would
guess,
give myself
you
a
know what?
solid
Now
A minus
that you
on
say
that.
now that you say that, I'm gonna have to grade myself to a B plus because I do throw up on my phone. Like throw up on my phone? That sounds really weird. I do like. Sorry, I know you were drinking and I didn't mean to.
Wait, what do you mean? What are
I
you
don't
trying
know
to
what
say?
I was trying to say. I don't know. I don't know. I literally don't
I do
know.
throw up on my phone occasionally. It's gross.
I think I was trying to say I like throw up my phone like into my hands.
Oh, got it.
Like
Yeah,
I just pick it up a lot and do
and
that.
that's
but
honestly a goal of mine that both Jerry and I are both bad about it. It used to be just me. He used to be a lot better, but now he does a lot on his phone because these apps that you need to connect with
Yeah.
your team or your people or whatever.
Yeah.
And again, it's just another, you can't disconnect. Like, I
Yeah.
don't need to check the text messages. You don't need to be on your Game Changer app all the like, it is a goal of mine that I wish I was a little better. And I find myself when I tell my kids, hey, put your iPads away. You've been on it too long. I'm like, take that note to yourself, Charna. Put your phone away.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to throw Joy under the bus here. She's worse at it than I am, honestly.
Really?
Yeah. Because she'll
That
be like,
seems so interesting. What's she doing on her phone?
well, she'll be like, because she does a lot of stuff like on the Buy Nothing groups on Facebook. And like she's on a few Facebook groups to um, not quite, but like there might be like a stay-at-home mom group or something like that. And so she also likes to help people and give people information. And if someone's struggling with something like potty training or something like that, she'll always have, not always, but she a lot of times has things she wants to share. And so she'll be on
Sure.
her phone doing stuff or texting friends, like one of our friends from San Diego, with four kids now. Yes, they just had their fourth. Too many.
Yes. I
was
have
like,
4.
I know, but you have the big gap. They're like
Yeah,
four
which is
littles.
absolutely not.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
But anyway, so she talks to her a lot, and they kind of support each other and things like that. But sometimes I'm like,
And that's,
Joy,
I mean,
put
that's
down your phone.
also,
But I'm
it's
just
a
about as
new
bad.
way to connect. It's just the way to connect, right? You used to
Yeah.
have to, you'd go see each other or you'd call each other or whatever it may be. It used
Yeah.
to be like when I was younger on the phone. I remember getting my own phone. I had that clear phone in my room that you could see all the neon stuff inside.
I
of it.
love those things. I got one of those
I got-
once.
Ooh, I was so pumped up about it. And I would sit on my bed on my phone for hours talking to my friends. And this is just the new version of that. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? It's really
100%.
different. But I get it. It's hard when if it's affecting, when you're supposed to be like, I can't stand it when people do it at dinner. I can't stand it when we go
Yeah.
out somewhere and I look around and I'm like, even it doesn't matter if it's family, if it's friends, unless you're like, hey, we're trying to look something up. Or
Which we do
let me
that a
show you
lot.
like,
That's my favorite thing.
Tot-
because we'll be like
Totally.
sitting there at dinner. We're like, our phones are at half of dinner because we're like, ooh, what's this? And we'll do like quick research and then we'll
Totally.
share.
Or look at this video, or we're showing our kids video.
Yeah.
That's fine. But when you're like doing something that's
Yeah.
not connected to the rest of the group,
Yeah.
and that's something I found really sad when I took my students to Europe last summer.
Mm,
Our students were actually quite good, but came across several groups that where they'd be sitting for lunch or something and picnicking, and they're all
And
just
everybody's
sitting
just on their
eating on
phone.
their phone. And
Oh,
you're like, you have
gosh.
all these people. And I think OSHA kids are a little different in that they're very connected and creative and out there and extroverted, most of them. But I was just like, man, that's sad. That's sad that these kids are just like on their phones. Yeah, I mean,
I'm
maybe
gonna
they're
have
not
to.
all extroverted.
I'm gonna have to say that that's gonna be more personality and slash conservatory specific,
True.
because I'm not gonna call anybody out, but let's just say musical theater kids are
Yeah.
tend to be much more like, I'll say, interactive and social and things like that. Whereas some other conservatories where I've worked with them, I'm like, are you alive? Do you
Yeah.
like?
Isn't
Are
that
you a
interesting?
breathing human?
Yeah. And I think
So
it's really tricky because those are the kids we're around all the time. So then when I am around
yes,
other students that I'm like, why aren't you like singing a show tune and being like, hey, friends?
yeah.
Like, what's wrong with you?
But they're just a lot of them are more
Yeah.
introverted, or
Yeah.
just either have social anxiety, or just don't really, that's just
But
not their
the phone
personality.
then just
Oh,
exacerbates that, where they're not forced
yes,
to have
I know.
conversations and look people in the eye. And it's like, you don't have to be crazy and outgoing, but you need to be able to like have a
Yeah,
conversation, you know?
yeah,
Anyway. Okay, what's next on our
absolutely.
list?
So then we have this one. I feel like we do this pretty good. Be good to yourself. I
I
feel
think I'm
like,
pretty good.
yeah, I don't, and I take that as a little bit like, don't be so hard on yourself,
Yeah.
and which kind of translates into the next one. But
I will say though, I know a lot of friends and have a lot of colleagues who are not good to themselves. So I'm constantly
yeah,
like, what? It's cool. Let it go or take it easy. It's not that big of a deal. Like
yeah,
I think you and I are pretty good about that.
I've
I
gotten
do
better as
think
I've gotten
like
older, honestly.
and treating yourself too sometimes. I wish my husband did that more. Honestly, I wish
Mm,
Jerry treated himself more. Like go have a beer with your guys. Go do something like I'm good. I'll go get my nails done, or I'll go out with my girlfriends and we'll have
yeah,
girl night, or you know,
yeah,
I wish I think that's important too. Self care is important. Go get a
yeah.
massage.
And then the next one, this is the one that I'm like, I am good at and not good at, which is accept imperfection.
Oh,
I think I get an F on accepting imperfection. I think that there's times when I'm like, it is what it is, and it's not getting any better. And moving on. Like, I don't beat myself up about it for the most part, but it's like, why isn't it correct? Why isn't it
yeah.
right? Why is that note not where
I
I want it to be?
I think you and I think that's actually why we work really well together and we get along with each other because neither of us, well, I think both of us are very good at that's not my wheelhouse, that's not my forte. So the fact that like I am not a hip hop dancer and will never be a hip hop dancer, do I wish I could be a little more better, like a little more better? Wow, Charna,
Yeah.
English. Do I wish I could be better at it and maybe use it in choreography? Yes. Am I okay with the fact that that's not my thing?
Yeah.
Yes. I
Oh,
think
yeah.
you and I are good that way. But
That
we
way
are
for
both
sure.
perfectionists.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big thing for me, where I sometimes have to be like, it's not perfect. It's fine, Sharna. Just let it go. You know, I think
It's
I
youth
would give
theater
myself a
and
B in
you're
that.
Belinda. It's not
Exactly. Or
Broadway.
we're doing
It's not
high school
brain
theater on Main
surgery.
Street. Yeah.
I know. No, but it's like, but truly, it's even with Broadway, even with anything that is not truly life or death,
Yeah.
everybody calm down,
Yeah.
including me.
And I think that there comes this, and we're going to talk to a very awesome guest next week, which I'm excited, or maybe the week after. We'll see when we
Yeah.
drop that episode. But I think talking to people who have worked in that professional industry
Hmm.
a lot, like I'd love to bring a couple of my
Yeah.
other Broadway friends on as well. You'll hear that it's like cyclical. So when you kind of get this idea of like, okay, it's not that deep, it then instills this, it's fine, and it becomes better. Does that make sense? Like
Oh,
instead of being
yeah.
so wrapped up and
Well,
consumed,
as I've
I don't
gotten
know.
older, that makes sense to me, because it's kind of like the thing where if you just take a step back and observe the situation, and you realize it's really not that deep, and it allows you
Yeah.
to get out of that like stress ball cycle where
Yep.
you can just get a clear mind on it. You can get almost a set of fresh eyes on the situation,
Mm-hmm.
because you're not in the middle of all the chaos, and you're like,
Yep.
oh, okay, I see
Yeah.
it,
Jerry
now let's
calls
fix
it
it.
responding, not reacting.
Yeah, I love that.
because that's it. And I get a lot of times with things that will happen in particular at school or with families or students or things that are like emotionally charged right
Mhm.
out of the gate. I'm like, and then I'm like, hold on. At the end, is this really like, do we really need to meet? And sometimes, especially people who are reactionary,
Mhm.
they just need to have that moment. And then they have
Yeah.
it. And then you're like, okay, now that you've had it, can we like, and I'm guilty of it too, oftentimes.
Yeah.
But I think it's like, it isn't in the grand scheme of things. It's all about perspective, right? It's not.
Yeah. I mean,
not
I
that
have to
deep.
say my tendency is toward reaction. Like
Mine too.
I have to work really hard to be like, and many times I fail.
I think you do a good job though, and I think because we are friends and the type of friends we are, I think we can have reactionary responses about things in
Yeah.
front of each other. But I
Yeah.
think in terms of like where the response is going to go, I think we're both pretty good at being like, okay, inside we know that this is annoying or we're frustrated or
Yeah.
whatever, but I think we respond in a professional way.
Well, thank you. I'll
I'm going to
take
give
it.
myself an A- B+ on that
For
one.
accept imperfection. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Cool. I also have one quote to share before we go, unless you want to say something else.
No, share it.
Okay.
Well, wait,
So-
no, I do. I always have one more thing to say. Hold on.
One more thing. We need like
I
a
just
tagline for
I
one
want
more thing.
every parent, mom, dad, person who works 10 jobs, aunties, uncles, family friends, people who help out. I want everybody who's listening to just take a minute. We've had some really good chunks in this episode of like taking time for yourself, giving yourself grace. I want to switch the work-life unbalance to a work-life balance. I think that that's important. So I'm just giving a little reminder, a little word of
Yeah.
encouragement that
And-
you need to do that for yourself. It's important.
Yeah, absolutely. And that leads directly into Ms. Dolly Parton, who said, never get so busy making a living that you forget to make a life.
Amen, Dolly Parton. Man,
That's
that is
right.
a great quote.
I love that.
That's
I
right.
found that.
That's right. Yep.
I found that and I was like,
That's a
oh, I
good
do love
quote.
that. Yeah. Because it's so true. It's like, it's kind of like the same thing with when people are like in it, when like the baby stage or the younger stage, and it's like, this is never going to end. I'm getting 5 seconds of sleep and I want to kill
Yep.
myself.
Yes.
And you look, and I've said it before. I don't know if I've ever said it on the podcast, but I do love the saying of the days are long, but the years are short.
Yep.
And everything's a season, and it feels like it's never going to end, and then you blink and it's over. So,
Yes.
so do
Enjoy
your
it.
best. It doesn't
Enjoy
make
it.
it any easier, but do your
No.
best to just go to that place and realize this is a season. This too will end. The bad parts will end, and try to enjoy the good parts as they're happening.
Yes. Look at us with some like sentimental positivity on our way out
That's
of our
right.
episome. That's what we get for
Hashtag
coming back from
sentimental
spring
positivity.
break. And
I know. I love it. Okay,
it.
so
all right, friends.
follow us.
Thanks for
on,
listening.
Yeah, follow us on Instagram, YouTube. If you're watching, hi, subscribe. If you're not watching, go subscribe and watch us. And you can find us wherever podcasts are. And on that note, Charnopher out.
Out.
Boom.
That was a good episode.
This concludes another episode of Uncommon Sense. If you're ready for more of this fresh, hilarious, and unique perspective on the world of entertainment, education, and life, be sure to subscribe right now to catch every episode. If you gasped, laughed out loud, or even snorted, share the show with your friends and aspiring entertainers because, let's be real, sharing is caring. For more Charnopher, tune in to their witty insights by checking out the website uncommonpod.com or connecting on social media. Tune in next week and get the real insider scoop on another episode of Uncommon Sense.